Hello, everyone. Welcome to an edition of the Ohio Guys here. I'm Christian Ocampo, and today I'm joined by another voice actor. We have Evan Lee. How are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. It's awesome to have you here.
Thanks for
And
having me.
yeah, so excited to ask you some questions. First of all, what is it like working in the industry today?
Ooh, so it's. I mean, we're in the time that we're recording this, we're going through a pandemic, so it is interesting because a lot of the norms of working in this industry have kind of been flipped on its own head. In particular, the situation of remote recording and what that brings about in terms of challenges, as well as like a whole different spectrum of things. But um, it's been interesting to say the least. I've done a number of projects at home using this booth that was only made for auditioning. um, but like I had to add pads, I had to sound treat the room, and spend a whole bunch of money on this thing that I might scrap entirely to just get a pre-made booth so I can just record in that. But it's been a journey, and it's weird because everything's slower now because especially on my end because I do a lot of anime and as well as other stuff that need like technical beeps and all that sort of stuff. There's like a delay between the director giving direction and then me recording, and so everything's just slower in general. I'd say about like 30% slower. But that being said, I mean, business as usual. And it's interesting to see where it goes. But I'm one of the fortunate few, I realize, who get to work because I have equipment at home. I know some people who aren't working at all because they just don't have the space for it. So it's a weird time right now, and I think I would be able to better explain how it really was, after 2020 is over. Hindsight is 2020 after all.
Yeah, definitely. It's a change of pace. It's, I guess, there's an adaptation to new environments. So it's definitely had a lot of voice actors, a lot of studios across the country. So everyone's doing what they can, working with however they can, and we're seeing it, with shows on Netflix, shows on Crunchyroll, etc. So it's a learning process. The way I see it from a fan perspective.
Right. It's also really interesting because, like, in a fan perspective as well, because I happen to work in an anime, but like I've always been a fan of anime ever since I was a kid. But it's interesting because like people know about dub actors more than they ever did before. Like before, you would just listen to it; it would be on TV, and who watches TV anymore? But you would watch it on TV, and then you'd go about just thinking about just the anime itself. No one really cared really for the actors until social media and the internet, for the most part, because you started to get celebritydom within the dubbing industry. But nowadays everyone's so hyper fixated on like the quality of the dubs and the particular characters that a certain actor will play, and they'll be a fan of that actor, which again was almost never like a thing outside of conventions. But now because of that, it's weird because on top of just like the quality of the acting, you're now looking at the quality of the studio that they're working with. Yeah, I know Funimation sends out kits to their actors for remote recording, and they all use the exact same mic. They like send off an iPad for like the script, et cetera, et cetera. And so it all kind of feels standardized. But it's weird because like, your home setup might sound different than how you do in a studio. So again, it's just the fans are getting closer to the actors in terms of like scrutiny.
Definitely, it's times change.
Times are definitely changing. They're weird, man. Times are weird. What is time anymore? I've been home for God knows how long. I miss studios. I'm not gonna lie. That's a weird thing to say because like the idea of being home and recording in your pajamas or without pants on or whatever is so appealing on paper, and it is nice. And I don't think a lot of that's going to go away even after there's a vaccine or whatever. But I kind of miss studios, and I kind of miss seeing people at studios. I kind of miss my work separation from home.
We're social animals, so we kind of need that.
Yeah, and I'm extroverted, so yeah, it doubly sucks. Yeah,
for sure. All right, so since your time in this industry, what is your favorite project you have worked on?
Oh, there's a show called Great Pretender that's now out on Netflix, and that is by far, hands down, the most fun I've ever had working on an anime or any project to date, as a matter of fact. Just the sheer amount of freedom that I've gotten with the character, and like just all of the circumstances line up for this to be lightning in a bottle, right? Because how many pandemics are you really going to have in your lifetime? And that's like a weird thing to say, but because everything's slowed down, like I mentioned before, the directors were like, "Screw it, we'll just take our time with it as much as we need, because everything's slow anyway." So I'm not saying we went slow on purpose, but we definitely took our time more than we would had it been not during a pandemic. So I got to explore the character a lot more, and I got to ease into it and play with it, and I don't know, it was just sheer bliss. And like I know in my heart of hearts that this is the most fun I've ever had in an anime, and this is a weird thing to say, but this might be the most fun I'll ever have in an anime, just because of the circumstances attached to it.
I guess it's one blessing in disguise with the pandemic. You are having that luxury of getting to, explore, as you say,
right,
with the characters. So until things go back to normal, where now it's be fast pacing, dubbing, you won't have that luxury as you used to explore these characters and these shows as you did with Great Pretender.
Right. It's a weird thing to say, a blessing, but I mean, like, it feels a little dirty right now to call it a blessing just because of like the terrible things that are going on. But yeah, you're kind of right. I mean, it happened to work out in a positive for me. And yeah, like I would agree that like it was a blessing in disguise at this point. But yeah, I'm not saying that I wouldn't have like played with the character, like at a different studio during the pandemic, because I've also worked on a couple of other shows that I can't talk about right now with other studios during the pandemic, but I definitely have much more time and luxury because I am the lead character in this, and like it centers around his story. And especially with NYAV Post attached to it, like they're great, and I would say like they're my favorite studio in terms of quality, just because like they won't stop with something just because it's good enough. They want to get like the best out of you. So I appreciate that on their end.
I love those folks there, NYAV, like
oh yeah,
Michael Centroneclis, like of all the experience of the years on this belt, you're gonna get a very good title, good performance.
Oh yeah,
with his hands on deck or on the helm.
No, he's fantastic. Yeah, no, he's super fun. He's super personable. He was so particular with what he wanted, and like the way that he would get me there with his direction was just, it was sublime. It was just so much fun to work with him. And I hope to work with him in the future again, but like who knows? But him as a person, I I mean, like he and I geeked over like old school anime, and he talked about his involvement in like older stuff from like North Carolina, I believe. It was crazy. But yeah, we had a few conversations before we started recording just to like ease into stuff, and just because he's so personable, like he wasn't intimidating. Like I'm not saying everyone makes me nervous, but like, like there's that professional barrier between the director and the actor, and he kind of broke that down just by having just conversation with me, and I felt much more comfortable with him than I do, usually do with other directors that I work with.
Definitely, he's a veteran at the game, so you will learn from him.
Mm-hmm.
And another question, and we're gonna go back, jumping back 5-6 years ago with this, with the older title you had to work on. It's Aldnoah Zero.
Aldnoah Zero? Oh man. Aldnoah Zero was interesting because I remember auditioning for that, and what's funny is that like I was auditioning for like the two leads. And I remember distinctly being, with Slain, I looked at that character and I was like, I mean, I'm sure I'd do well as him. I'm sure there's a number of people who would do well as him. And I remember looking at the character and being like, God, this looks like something Zach Aguilar would do. And the crazy thing is, no one knew who Zach Aguilar was because that's like how he was introduced into like the fandoms, right? But like, he and I trained together. He and I went to classes together. So like I knew him like from the beginning. And we still hang out. Like we still have that bond, and we go all the way back. When we were both training and doing Walla and incidentals, et cetera, at Bang Zoom. He got his start and he caught fire, and he hasn't stopped burning since, and it's been amazing to watch my friend grow into what he is now, and I look forward to what he's going to become. But I looked at it and I was like, Zach would be really good for this, and I was right. And God bless Max Middleman, because that man is so talented. He took Inaho, right? That's his name, Inaho. The character he plays is Inaho, and gosh, that character is so dry. Like, I like the show in certain aspects, but as a fan, I was just like, I don't know, this is a little. But Max took that character. Max took a 2D cardboard cutout and brought him to life. That man works magic. So I mean, like, he's a magician in the booth. But I got roped in to play a dude named Shigo Kake, who is basically the guy, like, if their ship gets hit, he's the one that goes, "We got hit!" Like, I become Mr. Obvious, and so yeah, and like I'm a mentor figure to certain characters because I'm older and more experienced in the battlefield, but like. Yeah, that's basically all I do is I'm like, watch out, we're gonna get hit. Oh look, we got hit. And yeah, no, like it was a lot of fun. The director was Lex Lang, and Lex and I had a lot of fun. We goofed around a little bit in the booth, and like we made some jokes that did not make a blooper reel for the show, but like I remember having a lot of fun with him, and it was a nice project. It was great and cool to see it all happen and like be a part of something that was anticipated at the very least to be something very large. And I remember when the producers for Vaniplex actually sat down in my session just to see how it was going, and once we were done with the session, they're like, "Hey, do you want to be the first person to see the English dub trailer?" And I was like, "Oh, heck yes, I'd love to." And it was so funny because like the trailer's out there, so if you want to watch it, you can watch it. But like I remember watching it, I'm being like, "Oh man, I'm getting chills from watching this." And then in the back of my head, I noticed something, and I couldn't say it. until it was over, and I was just like, huh, my name's not in the trailer anywhere. And they're like, oh, that's awkward. Because like the character who was there for like 2 episodes or whatever, I think Bobby plays him. Like he got a name drop in the trailer. Someone else that has less time than me goes in there and has more time in the trailer, and has a name, and then I'm just like, where am I? I wasn't there, and that was really awkward for them, but it was really funny, looking back.
I enjoyed the moment the trailer hit, because the way Aniplex did it was brilliant. Again, from a fan perspective, It looked like a Hollywood blockbuster movie. The way they had the names, as you described it, like each character that was shown with the actor's name, I was like, oh my God, is this going to be like a big 5-star rating show? Is this going to be like, is this going to like blow expectations out of the water? Like, there was a lot of hype, a lot of build up to it. And again, it introduced Zach and Max into the fold, because no one knew who they were before 2015, and 2015 was a good starting year for those two, for many other actors. And I think it kind of helped set the tone from 2015 up to right now in 2020.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it was huge for both of them in many ways. I mean, behind the scenes in the inner circles, I mean, we all knew Max was going to be huge. Max is amazing. We also, like, a lot of us knew that Zach was going to be sort of like the star pick going forward. Like, we kind of figured it out because he had such a great, vibrant youth to his voice. And, he was actually a teenager playing a teenager. And, like, he was this baby-faced kid, and if you go to any, response on Twitter, like, everyone treats him like he's 12. And I mean, yeah, he's young, but like, I mean, that's the thing, is that even though it's been 5 years or whatever, people are still like, you're 12, stop saying stuff like that. And it's fun and cute, but like, yeah, well, like we kind of knew. And yeah, that was a big year for him. That was like right before they had One Punch Man, I believe, right? So
yep.
Yeah,
One Punch Man hit 2016. So again, it was
right.
one show after another. So as the years went by, got bigger and bigger.
Right. I remember. What's funny is that, like, I did not get to audition for season 1 of One Punch Man. Yeah, and the reason is because 2015, at the end of 2015, I had to make a personal decision, involving my family, to move back home for a little bit, to help out. And it eventually worked out, but I had to step away from voice acting in LA for 2 years, from 2015 to 2017. So if you go to I think like BTVA, someone's like, oh man, he hasn't had a new role in a while. He should have been in One Punch Man. And like, I look at that, I'm just like, I know I would have, but like, I wasn't around. And I kept in contact with the studio. I kept in contact with Bang Zoom. But they're like, when you're back, let us know and we'll work with you again. And so I was out working at Stanford for a little bit, and then the things that had to be figured out got figured out, and 2017 came around again. I moved back. And then the first thing that I got, like, it was an audition for Katsugeki Touken Ranbu. And I might be jumping ahead of where you might want to be talking about this, but that was the first thing that I got once I came back, and I was like, all right, I still got it. I'm not rusty. I mean, granted, I also took classes in the Bay Area where I'm from while I was out, so I made sure I kept up with my craft.
Yeah, no, it's I guess me as a fan, I didn't even know that until you brought up now that.
Oh yeah, no.
Your gap, I would have missed that.
Yeah, no, I mean, but only by that point, I was only really on the scene for maybe like a year and a half, 2 years, right? Like, because most people knew me from Gargantia if they did know me. And, Gargantia was, I think it was a great show, and especially the dub was great. But I feel like it kind of went under a lot of people's radar just because in Japan, like the middle half of Gargantia hit and it was kind of slowing down. And so people lost the hype for that. So I still think, it's on Netflix still, and I still think, like, if you know about the show, you're a fan and like you enjoy it mostly. But if you've never heard of it, it's because there was nothing about it by the time there was no hype for it by the time it came out to the States. That and like so that was like my lead, and so that kind of fizzled out afterwards. But like I did other stuff, but again, nothing of major notoriety. So I feel like I as a name like am just kind of under the radar for a lot of people, and I'm okay with that. I mean, it's whatever, right?
Right. I mean, I guess you really know, like, where you're at in the industry. So
I mean, I don't really. That's the thing, is that I don't really care, because I'm not doing this for anyone else. I'm doing this for me. If I get to work, it's great. And if someone else is successful, I'm happy for them. And I think that's the best mentality that anyone can have, and I stick to that. So
yeah.
Right
on. So since really touch upon Gargantia on the brightest planet,
Verdurous planet. I know.
Verdurous planet. What was it like working on that show?
Oh no, that was baptism by fire. Have you seen the show?
I have not, but I do own it though.
Okay. So if you don't know, the lead character Leto, he's a fish out of water. Basically, he goes from like futuristic, galactic, military sort of setting to suddenly, coming across like basically like a Earth again, and he's stuck there. And the thing is, he doesn't speak the same language as everyone else does. So he basically has his robot Chamber, who's played by Matt Mercer, translate everything that he's saying back and forth. So if it's in his perspective, he's speaking English so that the audience knows it's his perspective, and then everyone else is speaking their language. And Chambers translating. And then it's the reverse, where I'm speaking the alien language and being translated by Chamber for the natives. And so like that's all cool and dandy, but this was like my first role in anime. And usually you're told you're gonna be starting to, you're gonna do incidentals, and you'll get like secondary characters, and then you'll eventually lead up to like a lead character. No, my first role was the lead character. And that was nerve-wracking enough. But on top of that, half my lines were this alien made-up language. So I ended up in a situation where I was inexperienced. Like I had a lot of training under my belt. I was inexperienced, and I had to dub to picture. I had to read, like I couldn't memorize the line because it was all made-up language. And like they're very particular as to like how it to come out, because I guess the intention of it was that the alien language is actually German but rearranged. So like they had spelling down for all of it, and I had to match it. So I couldn't memorize the line. Like I had to do that as well as act. So I had like an extra layer of like, oh my god, you're screwed sort of thing. And yeah, it was a challenge, but like again, for my first, actually, even if it wasn't my first role, I think I did pretty well. And it was a lot of fun, and it was scary, like flying by the seat of my pants. And Tony, who was my teacher before this, was there to guide me, and like without him, I don't know, I would have like crumpled. But he was there, and I remember they premiered the first 3 episodes at Anime Expo 2014, and I was there, and I was sitting next to Tony Oliver, and on my other side was Xanthi Huynh. And Xanthi and I are really good friends in the industry together. And like we were watching, and I remember watching the premiere, and like Xanthi was punching my arm, but I was in shell shock because I was like, oh my god, like all the choices and all of like everything was just like bombarding me. So she was punching my arm, and she was like, hey, Alan, oh my god, breathe, Alan, breathe. And I was like, wait, what happened? And like apparently I was like ghastly white, and like I was just in complete shell shock of watching myself. So yeah, I mean, it took a good 6 months before I could, like, after I bought the Blu-ray DVDs, for me to actually start watching the show again and be okay with myself. Yeah. So it was a doozy.
I think it's funny, Xanthi punch you. I've met Xanthi twice in the last 5 years, and she's so small. I can't imagine her punching, even if like a playful punch, but I can also see it too at the same time.
No, it started playful, and then she actually punched me because I wasn't responding.
That's even funnier.
Yeah.
I love Xanthi. No, she's such a sweetheart.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad this anime got to be shown on Anime Expo. Like, if anything's shown Anime Expo, I think that earns some merit, and I think it's an honor in itself. So I'm glad that you had that experience.
Yo, real talk about Gargantia and its timing though. Like, I remember that year being like, oh man, Gargantia is gonna be great. People are gonna love the dub, right? Because it was a great dub. They had like Matt Mercer, Laura Post, Cassandra Lee Morris as Amy, and who doesn't love Cassandra as the lead? Oh my god, she's amazing as Amy. But I remember there's this hype building for it, for at least the fans who knew about Gargantia. But the thing is, I feel like it got buried underneath everything else, because at that same convention was the redub of Sailor Moon, the return of Dragon Ball Z, right? Resurrection F, or no, Battle of the Gods. I forgot which one. Whatever. It was a Dragon Ball Z movie, and that swallowed up everyone's attention. And JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and there was no way Gargantia would get any hype for that. In fact, most of the people who were sitting at the screening were there early for the next thing, which was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So it was there, but it kind of got overshadowed by literally everything else that was already a titan in the industry. So it was but it's fine.
Again, going back to fan perspective, I've seen that happen to so many great titles that that I believe that should get the same recognition as a Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball Z, but because of that colossal wave that carries, they're easily swept under the rug, and I'm like, wow, that killed a fire for them. And I think now, again, back to the pandemic, people are burning through tons of animes.
Right.
Now I've seen some people giving certain shows a chance now. We're like, okay, I'm going to take a look at this one since they binge through a show. So with all these shows, they get easily swept under the rug. We're now with Gargantia that already trying to get the promotion going, get the build up going, and then again it gets pushed away by these other big shows, and hopefully hopefully the fans themselves, they can start to kind of anticipate that from now on, make sure that it doesn't happen again. Hopefully now that we start to, I guess, monitor these shows more carefully and not let them just get forgotten about in the wind.
Right.
So
I mean the dynamic of how companies promote their shows have completely changed. I feel like the early to mid 2010s were really awkward years for the industry, because that's when streaming was happening to fight pirating anime and all that sort of stuff. And they were trying to build hype on YouTube. and like it was really awkward. Like, and I feel like Gargantia kind of got awkward treatment, not because of anyone at Viz, but just because, I mean, the industry as a whole was kind of struggling with promoting titles. Like you watch some of the promotional videos for anime back then, and it's a little jarring. It's a little awkward. Like weird music choices. Like they would show preview clips, but like very sparsely. I remember for Gargantia in particular, like Viz put out one trailer that basically spoiled the entire premise of it. And that was it. There was no promotional scenes or anything like that to be like, hey, the anime's out, buy the DVDs or whatever, right? It was just one trailer that like kind of spoiled it, and I felt really like, oh man, like why would they go with this? But you know, that's what they did. And I think it was like Manga Australia, I think, that actually put out, you know, 2 or 3 promotional clips for Gargantia. And I think like more fans flocked to those trailers and clips than they did the Viz, you know, North American release.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The early 2010s, and you know, again, I don't blame the studios, because I think again that was when they were trying to bounce back when the anime industry was almost killed in the late 2000s, between 2008 2009.
Right.
And then again, we don't forget the Great Recession that hit 2008. Now all the studios, you know, coming back, right. You know, new studios coming up, trying to find their footing, trying to get the groove in. So they, you know, I think they took a few years to like finally get their rhythm going. We're like, okay, now they can start promoting shows a bit more better, with more feeling, more oomph to it. And I think that's where we are now. Now there's, you know, everything is like promoted, like, you know, it's meant that's going to be the next big thing, or not big thing, but it's going to get it's going to grab people's attention.
Right. It does its job.
Yeah.
It's funny because, oh man, do you remember, by the way, hold on. So like, do you remember when like way back, I'm sure you remember this too, but like Crunchyroll, like people thought Crunchyroll was going to be like the destruction of the anime industry. Do you remember that? Like, cause it was just like, it was before the subscription model, and it was just like a hub for all anime to be there for free, I think originally. And then like, they're like, oh man, Crunchyroll is going to be like the destruction of the anime industry. And then suddenly they're producing, and now flash forward now to 2020, and they're producing their own content. Like they're backing a lot of projects. But like promotion back was awkward. Remember, like you go on Funimation's YouTube site or like YouTube channel, and they like, you watch any of the earlier videos like promoting DVDs or anything like that, and they're just weird. They're just really bizarre to watch nowadays. And you're just like, oh, 2000, like 2010, you were a weird year. Like, yeah.
Like I said, like I think now, you know, with everyone that works in the industry, they know how to change things up to make them a bit more better, give them more.
Yeah.
Again, like a new identity, a new color painting. So I think that's where we're at now. We're now there. We just like, it's weird to look back on how certain companies used to be, whether it be the early 2010s, the late mid 2000s, so on and so forth. Like it's just, wow, like you would not think any of these companies would be where they're at right now.
Right, but they figured it out. That's the good thing, is that they went through the awkward like growing up phase and awkward puberty phase of their you know cycle, and now they're there now. So I'm glad for all the promotional stuff that they do. But yeah, it's just a bizarre, you know, look back if you really do look at some of the YouTube videos of like what they used to have.
Oh, for sure. All right, and here's another show, one of my personal favorites for many reasons, and again has to do with the way Aniplex presented this show. And we're going to talk about record of the Grancrest War. So yeah, so how was it like working on that show, man?
It was. I didn't. That was another show that I didn't really audition for. I was just precast as Irvin. I played Irvin, the what does he call himself? The
I just come assassin.
No, I mean he's an assassin, but he's like a weird butler at the same time. I think he's like called an actor or something like that. He's an actor where like he's an assassin, but he also plays like the role of like a butler. I don't know. So yeah, it was interesting because like I remember the only thing knowing about the character is that like he was Siluka, right? Siluka? I forgot. Oh god, how do you pronounce her name? But I was the butler for her, and like I was like, I don't know what to do with the voice because this is what I normally sound like. This is what I do for like most of my roles, and they're like, can you do something deeper than that? And I was just like, well how much deeper? And so like so we started here. So oh god, this is gonna be a weird thing to admit to on an interview, but if you watch like the first episode where I'm trying to figure out his voice, he kind of sounds like this, and he just sounds a little deeper than what I normally do. And then by the end of like the second session, we figured out his voice, which was down here, and very very much more like very much more buttery, and like it was just deeper and it was nicer. So but if you watch the first episode, I haven't found his voice yet, and then I go back and then I go move forward, and I have his voice down. But Irvin was a lot of fun because I got to play with the voice a lot more. I usually don't. I mean, like in acting, you don't think about the voice. You think about the acting first, and you focus on the acting, and you don't think about the sound. But I guess they really liked the sound that I gave him, for that role. So they're like, oh, can you like if I had a pickup session, they're like, can you like do that thing with the voice you do? So I move around and everything is just very, very smooth, like, and they played me into that more. And to be honest, I had no clue what the heck was going on in that show, in my perspective, at least, because my character doesn't he's there, but he doesn't always speak. And, like when it is about him versus someone else, right? When he actually gets to fight, like he's already with the plan. So I just have to pretend like I know what I'm doing and go with it. I just know I'm going to take down this guy and I'm going to fight him and throw my butter knife or whatever at his face. And whatever. But, yeah, it was very confusing. There's a lot of like plot threads going on, and my character wasn't always privy to them. So watching the series, like when it finally came out, like with the dub, I was so lost. I'm gonna be honest. I was so lost. I was like, what is going on? Why is this person sleeping with this person? Why is this person dying? Who are these wolf children like that I'm taking care of suddenly? Played by Jackie Lastra and Michelle Marie. Yeah, I had no clue, but like I enjoyed it. Like it was a project that like I had zero expectations for. And admittedly I only watched a few episodes, but that I was in. But it was fun. It was fun to watch, and I just realized, some people like this, but it wasn't really the show for me as a fan. But it was an honor to play the role.
I will say this. It felt like Game of Thrones with the whole military campaigns, the whole like, the dagger cloak aspect,
right.
Everyone's trying to like edge each other. Like I'm like, oh, like this guy reminds me of Varys from Game of Thrones. This guy reminds me of Dolphin from Game of Thrones. Like
right.
Everyone just had that kind of like that mode where I'm like, oh, okay, I've seen this before. Like you can tell when someone's lying, like this guy's gonna try and assassinate this person, and when who won the pony, that person gets assassinated, or
right.
this campaign gets turned because they decide to go this way. I enjoy myself because I enjoy the anticipation, that suspense. I and everyone was great. Like everyone was in the cast. Like that was also one of Brendan Winkler's first major roles. I'm like, whoa, who is this guy? I didn't know who he was until the show came out. I'm like, wow, this guy, he's got something. Like I gotta hear this guy. And then we had Jeannie Torrado, who made the jump from Texas to California, and boom, she's in this new big infection. Like no one saw that coming. Like it was, again, it was like a bit of a shockwave. Like, whoa, okay, like we're getting a unique cast to this that we have not seen before.
Right, people from Texas, new people, in the forefront. Yeah, no, it was interesting to see it. I've worked on a number of projects with her, both live action and anime wise. Jeannie's great. Jeannie's a great actor, and like I wish her all the best and all the success because she's phenomenal. And then Brandon and I will hang out on occasion. And we watched a little bit of Grancrest, and we were just actually, yeah, it was like maybe a year and a half ago that like we were reminiscing about Grancrest, because part 1 had come out, and we watched some of it together on DVD. And he was just like, "Oh man, I love your Irvin," and I was just like, "Thanks." Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, like, we talked about it. There was a mobile game that was attached for Grancrest, for the Grancrest War. And we talked about how our sessions went for the show, and we were just happy that like we were a part of the show. I remember that.
Yeah, it's for me. I enjoy this guy's special place. Not my heart, but like there are shows where like I still recommend people to watch it. Like if you want something new, something that's going to keep you on edge, I always recommend Grancrest War.
I think I personally as a fan would be like, if you're advanced enough to like hold and your attention span is like there, go for it. It's a really context heavy show. I remember it being touted as a cousin, basically like a sister series to Record of the Lotus War, which I love and I wish I owned on DVD. Because that one is like, that to me is like classic, like warriors and wizards sort of show, and especially with like the budget during the 80s and 90s that they had for this show. It was gorgeous. But yeah, it was just really interesting to see that this is like sort of the 2010s version of this grand epic story. And again, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to a brand new person who's coming direct like into anime like now.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's gonna be a lot, and there's just a lot to swallow.
Yeah.
But like if they like that, if they figure out that they like this sort of story, I mean, yeah, of course I would recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I agree with you on that part. All right, and now for another show that people wait for like a long time for season 2. While we start working on One Punch Man, the second season.
Oh my gosh, it was redemption match for me because I missed out. Like I told you before, I missed out on the auditions for One Punch Man season 1 because I was away. But while I was away, I began reading the One Punch Man manga, and I caught up to the tournament arc of that, where Suiryu first appears, and I remember being like, oh man, he has like a cool design. He's not like this weird doofus, and like it was like I got attached to the character, and I was like, oh man, like. And this is like the fan part of me being like, if I could voice anyone in this series, I'd love to voice that guy. And then, like as I was reading the chapters, he gets his ass handed to him. And and like you feel for the guy, and you kind of get worried because you're like, oh man, this character that I love like might die, right? Like one might just do it. Holy shit. And I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this podcast or
You can.
this. Okay, cool.
Feel
But
free.
yeah, thank you. But I was like, oh shit, he's gonna die, and like I was actually like afraid for him. I was afraid to read the next chapter because I didn't want him to die, and everything seemed so bleak because people were turning into monsters, they were dying, they got their asses handed to them, and Sweetie seemed like he was gonna be on the block, and like it that story arc concluded the way it did, and he was rescued, and you didn't see him again for a long time. So like I was just where I caught up to, like he hadn't returned yet, and it wasn't until I think earlier this year, in fact, in the manga, that he returned back in the manga. He has like crutches, he's bandaged up, but like he's okay now. Unfortunately, I guess they put back his teeth into his skull. So but yeah, I remember when I got the audition, I was like, oh my gosh, holy shit, like this is the character that I wanted. And up until that point, there wasn't a character that I had really desired. And I feel like this is sort of like an actor's principle, but you should never get too emotionally attached to an audition, because it usually ends up in heartache and heartbreak. Because you try certain things that you shouldn't do by trying to make it special, and that can be a way of sabotaging yourself from getting the role, right? If you just because there's always that potential of, if you just do it the way you would naturally do it, you can get the role, right? Because it shows you're competent and shows you're taking the right type of risks, et cetera, and you have like a solid chance. And it really depends on whether or not they liked your take on it. But if you try to make it way too special, and you get the gig, you can accidentally sabotage yourself by not being able to produce that character on the fly again. Because you put so much effort in just that one audition, and then some time goes by, and then they tell you, hey, we picked you for the character, you're gonna have to come in tomorrow, can you do it? And you're like, oh crap, I have to like prepare for this character, but I don't have enough time right now. And then like I've heard of people getting way too attached to a project and not being able to produce what they auditioned with, because they put only so much energy into that audition that they end up getting recast, right? And it's just heartbreaking. It is gut-wrenching for that. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh shoot, I'm getting way too attached to the character because I love this character. But I did it anyway, and like I was like, you know what? I have no regrets. I got to play the character, I got to audition, and that's the job. I got to play as the character, even if it's only for 30 seconds, and I can move on in my life now because I got to do it at least, right? And you just remind yourself how lucky you are to be in the right place at the right time to get such a cool character. And you just, you knowing how lucky you are, you're grateful for it, and then you move on once you submit that audition. But I think it was like a week and a half or 2 weeks later that I was at I was hanging out with a couple of friends, and then I refreshed my email, and I saw that I booked it, and I freaked out in front of my friends. I was like, oh my gosh, and they're like, what is it? And I'm like, I can't tell you. And like Zach was there, and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm going to be doing a thing with you. Oh. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I can't say yet. And like, they all like saw me freak out, and then I calmed down, and I was like, all right, I booked something, and it's pretty cool. And then we moved on. They're like, okay. But that was one of the first times I ever like fist pumped and did a victory dance for a character, because I really wanted the character, and I got him. So, and then working on the actual show itself, I was working with Christian Lamont for the second season, because I know that Chris Kaysen did the first season. But Christian and I did a couple of projects before One Punch Man. And so I'd already worked with him. So I was, again, really comfortable with him. And like we made a lot of ridiculous jokes, especially when I'm getting my butt kicked and I'm saying I need a hero. We started singing "I Need a Hero." Yeah. Oh man, if they made a blooper reel, I would have been singing like verses of that song while it was going on, and it would have been glorious. But they didn't keep it. Yeah, but like it was really fun. The character was fun. I got to listen to a little bit of Max's stuff beforehand, so I got to react off of him. I think the fights turned out really well. I think like all the attacks turned out, really fun and cool and just loose like the character is. And so I look forward to the next time he's on screen for whatever season and how many every years it's going to take to come out, right? Because it was like 3 years after season 1 that season 2 came out. So who knows, but that was a fun arc, and I think I was in 8 episodes, with like little bits and parts here and there. But yeah, I was really happy with the character. And I have another story attached to this, but oh man. So did you watch Demon Slayer? I'm allowed to talk about it, but
yeah, no, I haven't. I could watch on Hulu if I want to.
Okay, so spoiler alert. I play a demon that gets killed. That's all you have to know. But I found out I was cast as that demon to get killed because I died because I screamed and pleaded so well as Suiryu in One Punch Man season 2. So wow. So I got cast because my begging was so good.
That's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll definitely watch it. Like, I got Hulu accounts, so anyone that is watching this, please have either Hulu, Netflix, or any of these streaming services. Always good to support the industry.
Right.
Please. All right, so again, another show that went way under the radar, even for me, because I just stumbled upon this one at my half price bookstore. Tell us, what was that working on Katsugeki Touken Ranbu?
Katsugeki Touken Ranbu. That was 2017 going into 2018, I believe, when I was cast for that, or when I came back. Because I came back late 2017. And that was, I remember getting my character Kunihiro Yamabagiri, and I also auditioned for Billy Kometsu's character, as well as Robbie Damon's character, and yeah, like auditioning for that character, Yamabagiri, like it was, I don't know, like he seemed cool, and like there's a running joke that like with me and a couple of friends that like I play. Like I came into the industry at the wrong time because I have this voice and this like natural tendency to act cool, but the issue is the cool characters never speak, and so I don't get to say anything. I just get to appear and look pretty, be like, yeah, I'm right here, and that's it, and that's all he does. But it was interesting because I played the leader of the first unit in the show, and the first unit gets like 3 episodes to themselves before it switches back to the main cast. But it was a lot of fun, and like it was a character that I felt like I could naturally play, and he was just this really cool, no nonsense sort of leader who had like this funny insecurity because like his backstory is basically he's a replica. He's like a fake of this legendary blade that was like lost. So he has this complex where if anyone mentions like how like deep their like how legendary their weapon is, he's like, I was a fake. Like and like he holds it, but he uses it as like as like his motivation to prove himself even more. And I gravitate towards those characters being like, oh, I have imposter syndrome too sometimes, and I work twice as hard as my peers do just to keep up with them. And like I always found that really endearing with this character, and he was a lot of fun. Like he was cool. He kicked butt. Like, what else do you want in the character? So
I got a funny story about this show that I think you might like to hear. So because it is an Aniplex title, and the prices are though high for certain customers. Now I have spent a good amount of them on on Right Stuff or on Amazon, Crunchyroll, wherever I can get it. This one was a big exception. I saw this originally on Amazon for like $130 to $150.
Oh yeah,
for the whole box set.
Mm-hmm.
And because I already mentioned Half Price Bookstore, I also got a discount during their Black Friday sale. They had it for $100, then brought it down to $75. With my coupon, that $75 got cut down to, I think it was like $40, $45.
Dang! Wait,
yes.
you're telling me you got Katsugeki Touken Ranbu, like Blu-ray DVD, for like $40?
Yes,
dude, that is a steal. That is a steal, dude. It was 120 clams when I had to like. Oh God, yes. I'm so jealous. That's a great deal. I'm happy for you, man.
Even when I speak to other voice actors, I'm like, if you have a half price bookstore in your neck of the woods, go there. There's a high chance there's going to be a rare anime, and it's going to be discounted ridiculously, especially if you wait for Black Friday with the coupon. They will knock down the price even more. So right. I hit the jackpot, Mike.
The only story that I have that's closely related to that would be like I go to like certain electronic stores around my neighborhood because they have an anime DVD like section, right? And like during Christmas or during like I guess just the holidays in general, like I would go around and I would check on Right Stuff because Right Stuff has like like they have discounts as well. And so I would go and compare in the store, like on the Right Stuff, like on my phone, I would have the Right Stuff like search, and then I would look for it and see which one's cheaper. And because they would price match, I would show the Right Stuff price and they would price match it right there on the spot. And I wouldn't have to pay for shipping or anything else like that. So I got a few DVDs for like 70% off without shipping and just paid tax, and that's it. Like I think I got Nozaki that way, which is it's a Sentai Filmworks property, but still really good deal. But man, I could not even imagine getting an Aniplex title like that. That's crazy. I have not had that sort of luck ever.
It's unheard of. Like if you say, "Oh, I bought an entire collection of an Aniplex title for $45," it's like how? Like that does not happen. Well, it can. Just the person who's selling it not know the value of it, apparently.
Right.
So I bought it.
What's funny is that like, I was trying to show a clip of the dub to friends, but like I couldn't find anything anywhere because even on Amazon they only had the sub, like on their Amazon Prime like video, like video on Prime or whatever. And they only had the sub, and like even the pirate sites. Just because I was trying to show, like, I was trying to find my character to refer to a line, so I used a pirate site, or I tried to, but none of them had the English version. And I theorized because Aniplex made their stuff so pricey, no one in the pirating community decided to buy it because they're like, screw this, I'm not gonna pay 120 US, to put this up online. So as a result, the dub never went online, and I guess someone eventually did, but like at the time it was weird because I mean I couldn't even find it like on the pirate sites. So that's crazy to me.
And this goes back with, again, we're talking about 2017-ish, even sometimes when Aniplex will license something, you don't really hear about. Like I am pretty good to keep up with social media with which company that picks up license rights to a show. Like, I had no idea this was a Aniplex title. I'm like, what is this? So I had to look at the cover, like, oh, Aniplex, huh? I heard nothing about this. And again, this you could sort of blame Aniplex as I'm like, hey, you guys didn't promote the show, or I mean, you guys dubbed it, but you didn't tell anyone you dubbed it. That's vibe I kind of felt. So like, because I was like, wait a minute, Ranbu, huh? Does it have a cast? I looked up like, oh, it has a cast, but how even some of the actors didn't talk about this, like, or maybe just it went under the radar. Like, how did this happen? Like, it's Aniplex. Like, they're known for at least up the ante. Like 2015, they went all out with Aldnoah Zero. 2017, you didn't hear a peep about Ranbu. So I'm like, okay, I mean, it is what it is. It's, I mean, it's there for watch it.
I totally feel that, because again, like even if I wasn't working in anime, like I'm still a fan of anime. And like I remember trying to hunt down like the copies of Durarara way back in 2010. And I was like, oh my god, they're like $70 just for the DVDs, right? This is before they even had the Blu-rays out. And I was like, god, it's $70 per thing. And so I put down like, gosh, what is that? $210 plus tax for the 3 volumes of Durarara because I wanted it. And I'm glad I own it. But and this is a terrible thing because I totally agree that, like, I mean, I at least I couldn't find out, like, I didn't know where season 2 was. I knew it was coming out and I knew they dubbed it, and I remember, I believe it was on Cartoon Network. No, it was on, I don't know where it was on, actually. It might have been some other streaming site, but I remember it being released. And I missed the window that they had DVDs for season 2. So I don't own season 2 as a result. And it sucks because if you try to find it now, it's crazy expensive. And I'm really sad about that because season 2 was pretty banging. Like, I mean, season 1 is still my favorite of the 2 seasons, but like, still, I wish I had season 2 on DVD. And I'm so mad that, like, I never even got a single mention of, like, the fact that was coming out on Blu-ray DVD, when it did.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. You're gonna hate me for this one. I got discounts on season 1 of Durarara at the half price bookstore. For each of them.
I'm dying right now.
I'm waiting for someone, or I'm waiting for season 2 to show up on the shelves, because I will do the same thing again. Discount.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully you have.
You're so lucky. Gosh. You know what? I don't regret it, because if that's the way that I can support the industry, by paying full retail price from the direct store of the distributor, I'll do it. Like, I'd rather do that just so that, like, someone gets the money, and this industry is kept alive. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. But again, if the opportunity comes, yes, I'll take the super cheap price from that.
Man, you gotta teach me your ways, man, because like I feel like I'm getting like bonked with these prices.
Yeah, man. No, this was 9 years of being a loyal customer at Half Price Bookstore. So you start to see some prices, here and there.
Right.
I will share my ways with you. Privately.
We'll do that off the record. Yeah,
yes.
Off the record.
Yeah. All right. So another big show that you touched upon earlier, and
do I have these many big shows? I don't know.
Well, this one is big. It's still going strong with so many new seasons. Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. Most likely that show.
Oh man, I played Miyamoto Teranosuke. Right, I played Teranosuke. I didn't audition for the character. I just got cast. And they were showing me the clip of it, and I was like, so what do you want me to do for the voice? And they're like, well, we're kind of hoping like he splits his voice, like being, like being intimidating and creepy to like exude the fear. And then like his real voice, which is like just kind of shrill and kind of like kind of like that sort of direction. And I was like, oh, okay. So I did that, and I think the end result was I think it was good. Like I remember being told by Allegra, who plays the mom, because I chase the mom and capture her by creeping her out, that I legitimately actually did creep her out, because there's this part where he bites into like a breakfast custard bun, and and like starts licking it like creepily. And some people are like, oh, it's like part three's Kakyoin going la, 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 right with the cherry, and they're like, oh, this is part four's, but man, it's creepier and it's gross. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I did. I made it real gross. I had so much fun making it gross, and I realized through that, like, I'm pretty exceptional when it comes to like making any of those type of efforts like really, really, really like poignant. So she actually had to, going back to Allegra had to ask Tony to mute my character while she was doing it, because she had to react to it. But because it was actually creeping her out, she asked them to mute me so she could react. Yeah. And yeah, Tony, I remember Tony being like, it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's weird. It's bizarre. It's an adventure. Like, just do the voice. And I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. And like they had what they wanted. And I mean, I gave it to them and they liked it. I remember talking to Tony about the character like before I went in for it, and fun fact, he was like, so I was asking Tony how much, like how creepy is this guy, like, because I don't know anything about him, and he was just like, oh, like he gets off on being creepy. And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, so like every time someone shows fear, like pretend, oh god, Tony's gonna kill me if anyone hears this, but pretend it's like him make it sexual, basically. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's the direction we're going. So anytime someone shows fear, it's just like it's that sort of tinge of like, oh my god, like squeezing of the butt cheeks, just right? And like, that sensation. I don't know how else to explain that. So sorry to your viewers or listeners, but yeah, that was the direction I was given, and it worked. I guess, people really loved the character and people loved the voice of him. They're like, oh my god, he's hot and he's also creepy and like he's like whatever and this and that. And so I was like, all right, I did a job well done. But that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I appeared for like a couple episodes, but it was definitely up there with like the fun factor.
I can only imagine what Kira Buckman must have said to your performance.
She was proud of me. She was proud of me. She was proud of the fact that I made Teranosuke really, really, yeah.
What a show! What a show!
Yeah, what a freaking show! Oh, they're gonna have. Hopefully, they have part 6 out relatively soon, because they're wrapping up part 5, at least on the English side. So, God, speaking of which, I really hope Kira. Like, I know this is like a faux pas, but like I really hope Kira gets the lead for part 6 for Jolene. Mm-hmm. Because man, is she that character. Like, so if anyone from Viz is listening, please put Kira as Jolene. Like that, she is that character. That's like the perfect, fits like a glove sort of match.
I'll say this right now, since I have met Kira twice, and twice I was her convention handler.
Nice. Which convention?
I'm going to be plugging in Anime USA in Washington, D.C. So anyone that lives on the East Coast, I recommend checking them out. There was some amazing guests at their convention, so check them out whenever conventions reopen again. And second one, I'll plug in for KitsuneCon in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So another place that gets some really great guests, and I hope anyone that lives in the Midwest, whether it be Chicago, Indiana, if you're in Wisconsin, even Iowa, I highly recommend KitsuneCon. So yeah, those are the two. Yeah, I like to work wherever I can, even if it's out of state.
No, Kyo's great. So
all right, so that's anime question that you got to voice in. This one just came out yesterday as we record on August 21st on a Friday. What was it like working on Great Pretender?
Oh, it was, like I said before, it was the most fun I've ever had in an anime. It was interesting because apparently, according to my directors, because I had I had 4 directors for this series, which is unusual, but that's how they decided to split up the work to make it on time, was because each group of like 4 or 5 episodes was a case happening in a different city in the world. They decided to split it up. So I worked with Michael Sinter Nicholas for case 1, which is the LA connection. I believe case 2 was a split between Kyle McCarley, Mike Schneider, called Singapore Sky, and then case 3 was split between Mike Schneider and Stephanie Shea, which is the Snow of London. Each of my 4 directors had various styles of directing, which is fascinating, but it was great and a lot of fun. And like I said, the circumstances that led up to this kind of made this experience for me lightning in a bottle, because we got to play as much as we wanted, and we kept going until we had as much fun as we could. And we put a lot of attention and care into every single line. And I don't know if you watched it, but I got to watch some of it, and I feel like it shows. The character himself, Makoto Edamame Edamura, is a blast because he reacts so well to all the situations, because he's the fall guy, right? Like if something goes wrong, he gets his ass kicked. And it's a lot of fun getting your ass kicked. You know, like there's a particular scene that I'm really happy about, that Laura Post's character Cynthia is angry for being called like an old hag. And like she and Edamame's like trying to like calm her down, being like, hey, you tried your best, don't worry about it. But like she was just like, here, hold this pillow, and then she like socks him in the face. And I got to go like so many different takes for that. And we got the one we wanted. It was just perfect. But it's interesting because we also did a few things that a lot of viewers might not know, which include dubbing that first scene with the water filter. That was an optional part to be dubbed, because we didn't know if it was going to be dubbed and then after the opening it was going to be going back to Japanese, and then partway through the Japanese, when it went back, it says, all right, for the audience's convenience, it'll all be translated to English now, without the accents. And so that was an option. And then the other thing that we didn't know whether or not we wanted to do was whether or not we wanted to do the accented English at all. And the reason is because I think because there's a potential that, because it's anime and anime roles, it's like what's happening in the industry right now is that it's going through like a huge shift because of cast ethnic appropriation, like appropriate casting for ethnic roles. So like for BIPOC, which is um uh yeah, for anyone of like color, basically Black, Indigenous and people of color. And because of that, like a lot of people are being given priority to audition for characters that are people of color. But in the anime industry, it's a little weird because technically they're all Japanese, and you can't just make everything Japanese just because of that, because like that's like the majority of the roles anyway. So it's like a weird, funky gray zone right now. But I remember there being a thing about like if you don't feel comfortable doing a Japanese accent, which was part of the audition, you don't have to do it, and then we'll figure it out. So there was an option if they chose someone else who wasn't Asian, they wouldn't feel comfortable enough to make the actor play like a Japanese accent. But because I'm Asian, like I was okay with doing it. Plus, like I had already gotten quite a few projects by doing Asian accents: Korean, Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese. Yeah, and so I got to do it, but so there was a potential that like it would have just stayed with the Japanese seiyuu doing the English, like the accented English. But because they got me, they were allowed to do it. Interesting story though was that like in the script, Laurent tells Edamame that Edamame has like a weird accent. Like it's like a weird jumble of accents. So I actually had to not do just a normal Japanese accent. And again, mind you, I can do one. It's just like and I was coached by people who have Japanese accents and are from Japan. So like I definitely did my due diligence for that. But for this particular project, because it was stated that he had a weird accent, I had to make his English sound a little weird with the accent. And so there might be a few people saying, "Oh, his accent sounds off." Well, that was intentional. If that sounded weird to you, like a not like typical Japanese accent, that's why. It sounds like a jumble of accents because it is a jumble of accents. We actually had to mix a couple of different regions for the accent, or at least like I did. That's what I chose to do. And so it sounded a little weird, and I think some people are like, "Oh, he sounds deeper when he speaks English." But the thing about that we came up with was like he if you speak like an Asian language, your pitch actually goes higher. So like I speak Korean, and so like when I speak Korean in front of my girlfriend, like because I'm on the phone with my mom or whatever like that, she'll be like, "Oh, you do like this weird thing where you pitch your voice up," and I'll be like, "Oh, it's because I'm speaking Korean." Because you use the front of your mouth to speak Korean, as well as Japanese and other specific like Asian languages. But when you're speaking English, you speak from the back of your throat, and so it sounds deeper. And so because I fit Edamame and his Japanese voice naturally, right, by just going right here, when he speaks English, he should be scaled back a little bit. So when he speaks English in the beginning, and he's leaning back, then I relax the throat because that's where he would have the voice when speaking English. So it was complicated, and I feel like a lot of people kind of missed that, but there's a technical reason why it sounded the way it did. And hopefully people will forgive me. So
I love accents. I'm not sure if you can hear my accent because I'm Mexican. I speak Spanish, so that's why you can hear the way I speak right now. So
right.
In anime, I always enjoy it. It's always I guess again for me as a fan that has an accent, it's like wow, like I get to hear other people's accents. Whether be played or maybe that's one that they do have. I always enjoy accents in any medium.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I wish there were more accents, to be honest, in this show. But I mean, I understood why the creators did it the way they did, and I think it was brilliant. You know, that it was just that one part for like 9 minutes that they had accents, and then the rest of it is just going to be in whatever. And it's a fun jab and nod as to like why suddenly all these like non-Japanese speakers would all suddenly be speaking Japanese, right? Like, how do they even understand each other in the show? And this addresses it in a very tongue-in-cheek way, and I think it's funny, and I think it serves the purpose really well.
No, definitely. I've been binging the show since this morning before we started doing this interview. I've enjoyed every step of the way, and
good.
I still got to finish up. I'm on episode 14 right now, so.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty caught up, and
I love that. Sorry, I love that last episode I love that last case, and like it's so heartfelt, and it really tears into you. But I'm glad you made it through the first part of it. Like,
yeah, it's it got me hooked right away. I'm like, okay, I gotta see more, and then I'm like, oh, I'm ready this episode. All right, I guess I'll be watching more. So yeah, man, awesome job, and awesome job to the rest of the cast. So I've really enjoyed this so far.
Oh yeah. I'm also really happy about the fact that they got like that NYAV went out. Well, not, I don't know if it's out of the way, but they committed to finding people of color to play the leads. Like they found Koster Mohammed is phenomenal as Abby, and Abby's from the Middle East, and like it really worked out, and she does a phenomenal job. I'm Asian, Edamame's Asian, so that counts, I guess. Yeah, but no, like I'm glad that that they went the way that they did, and it worked out. People seem to be really happy for it, about it. I mean, and I don't know how this stands in the view of the fans, but I just hope they enjoy it. Like I hope they enjoy the performances. I hope they enjoy the voices. I hope they enjoy the effort that we put into this, and I know that they'll enjoy the show at the very minimum, right? Because it's a great show.
Mm-hmm. No, it's story driven. Yeah. It's really emotional. I think I posted this on Twitter as well. I like that concept. It's man versus society, a bit of man versus himself. I like those kind of concepts.
Oh yeah,
especially the society part. Like I will say this, I feel bad for your character Amamame, like just with what's happened to him with his home country Japan, how the justice system, how they've done dirty to both him and his family name. I think that's
right.
That's something that boils my blood.
Right, that was commentary. Yeah.
And almost he almost got the same treatment in the U.S. Justice system, and I'm like, wow, this guy just, he just can't catch a break no matter where he goes in the world. Like it's the way it's structured. Like I'm like, that ain't right. Like something's got to change, and
right.
That's why he's angry. He said like, he's trying to, trying to be a good person, trying to not be a scammer, but the scamming ways keep helping him through these
right. He embraced it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I was wondering how it's going to end for him. I hope hopefully he can turn the tables. That's what I wish. I hope he can come back and just take everyone down.
I think what's interesting is that I think he's resigned himself in the show that he is a scammer, right? Like he is, if that's what they're going to label him as, he's just going to embrace it, because he's like, you know what? Like, there's no point. You might as well just embrace what they call him. If they're going to call him a monster, he's a monster. Mm-hmm. So let him be a monster. Let him be a great monster, and let him be the greatest monster in Japan. And then, I feel like I don't know if he necessarily would go the route of revenge. And the only reason why I say that is because like if you're talking about someone who's a confidence man, right? Who's a scammer, who's a con artist, right? That, I mean, like we see it in the general lens of society as something that's bad, right? You're swindling people out of their money. And the fact that he struggles to do that, right? Like when you watch it, like just, pay attention to like how he doesn't want to make the drugs, right? He doesn't want to put he doesn't want to put drugs out on the street. He doesn't want to screw over Salazar. He doesn't want to he wants to help people heal in the Singapore Sky in case 2. And like he doesn't want to sabotage the plane. Like he has good in him. And every time he finishes one of the cases, he's just like, you know what? I'm not really a scam artist. I'm just a guy, right? And I'm just a guy trying to do good in the world. And it failed him the first time, and so he embraced, like the darker edge of it without really hurting them. But that's what makes him the Great Pretender. That's why he's called the Great Pretender, is because he, it's about him coming to terms with his own identity in the world that he resides in, and this world of scam artists, and he has a great talent for it when he puts his mind to it. But I think that's the real reason why, is because like in a world where you screw over people, like he's trying to be really, really kind and good. And that's the reason why I don't think he's going to end up with like revenge. I don't think he's going to try and extract revenge from them. I think if anything, he's just going to find success in his own way, and let that be his revenge.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, unless his comrades, if you call them comrades, I can see him doing it for him. Like, hey, he won't bankrupt these guys and want to hire him. We'll do it for him. I can see that,
Right. They also threaten him outright. If he screws up, they'll destroy him. Yeah. So I mean, I'm pretty sure that they said that in the first arc. They're like straight up like, oh, if you screw up, like, well, you're dead. So
yeah. But yeah, it's a great show in my opinion. Like, again, it's just so much to take in. Just just the different viewpoints, perspectives. Like that's something brilliant that that most animes could do more of, depending on the genre or the story it wants to tell. I think this is why it stands out. Like, you just get from so many perspectives. Even like Salazar mentioned, like, I thought they were just going to make him just a pure, cold-blooded Mexican that happens to be, in a gang, and like he had the soft side. Like, wow, like, this is what Mexicans, like him, do feel like, they're part of this dark world, but he's trying to raise his son, and
right.
And like, god dang, like, again, me, because I'm Mexican, like I can see more of his story. Like, I like, wow, like, just a lot of mediums cover that, or how they portray that Mexican man. It's, I think I enjoy that, just
right.
seeing some representation as a Mexican, but then just how society, how he's trying to live in that structure.
Right. I think I love that aspect of the show, where like it does show in many aspects how people sort of function, right? Like why they are the way they are. Like it the great thing about entertainment and film, TV, and animation altogether is that it tells the story, but it also humanizes everyone there within the stories, and so you can relate that back to real life. So if people are like, yeah, like this Mexican person's just a bad person because he's a gangster, or like, like a drug dealer or whatever, it's like you don't really understand and empathize with that character then. But if you add that, where that detail of like, the fact that he has a son, and like he's just trying his best, and he ends up in this area to try and like, make money and just, take care of his family. It sheds light, and I think that's important. But that's why we become that's why I became a storyteller, right? Like, that's all I am as an actor. I'm a storyteller. And it's to, share with others the human condition.
Right.
So yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Oh boy, that was such a big package to take out. I enjoy these questions. Believe me.
Yeah, same.
All right, so let me ask you a funny question just to change the pace a bit.
Sure.
If you could be any character you have played in real life, who you be, and you can mix and match?
I don't know. All the characters that I play, I feel like, are in really shitty situations.
Yeah, definitely.
Suiryu gets his ass kicked, I also play Shu Kurenai in Beyblade Burst Turbo, and his life is pretty banging. He spins tops, and I guess I don't know how he makes money as a teenager running a team or whatever, but I guess he makes money off of the Beyblade competitions. That'd be cool. Where everything's based upon whether or not if you can spin a top really well. That'd be cool, but I don't know. I wouldn't say I want to live in that. Gargantia, I wouldn't want to live in that. That sounds horrific. I guess Edamame would be the character that I'd love to would love to be, in the fact that he has this skill to, well, actually he and I aren't too different, because I've always seen acting as I was asked what is acting, and I've always, I forgot who told me, but the quote was basically, acting is the art of lying, right? Yes. I am lying to you. I'm convincing you that I am a different person. And that's deceit, and that's lying, and it's not necessarily to harm anyone, but my acting can bring and draw out emotions within these stories, from people by a means of telling these stories. And so he and I aren't necessarily that different. He's been through a lot worse than I have. But if I can be involved in scams that make millions of dollars and I can live to, live out the life that I'd want to instead, yeah, sign me up. But, it's, I don't know. I'm not that big of an adrenaline junkie compared to what the story has Edamame go through. So, but I guess if I had to choose any of the characters that I've played so far, it'd be that one. Okay. It seems fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, is there anything else coming out that you can talk about?
I can. I can actually. So I actually held something off because I was told yesterday that that I'm allowed to announce it, and I have been for a while, but I just wanted to double check with them. And there's a game called Rogue Company. It's from Hi-Rez, and it's a free-to-play game. I think it's in closed beta right now. If you pay for the game, you'll get the free-to-play, or you'll get the beta access. But there's a character named Talon, who I voice, and yeah, he's really badass, and Rogue Company is just, I don't know. I've seen footage of it. I think it looks really fun. I haven't tried it myself, but yeah, it's out there, and I'm in it, and I'm technically gonna announce it after this on social media. So, but yeah, I play Talon in Rogue Company.
All right, so we're gonna keep an eye out for that one then.
Sounds good.
Yep. And then for the last question, is there any Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or any other social media for the fans to contact you at?
I try to keep my Facebook private, just for my friends and family. And even then, I don't really post anything because I don't like Facebook mining my data. So I try very minimally to just keep on. Plus, I have a lot of contacts on there, and that's really what it's for me now. Twitter, it's Alan Lee VO, ALANLEEVO. Instagram is it's Alanator, ITSALANOTOR. I'm not very active on Instagram yet. I've been struggling. My girlfriend's been pushing me to post more, and I might just make it a food thing of what I make during pandemic and promotional stuff of my voice acting stuff. But I'm trying to figure out social media. I don't know. I feel weird about social media because like, I like my privacy. Mm-hmm. But I know it's my job, and that's why, I'm trying to change my attitude about it and post more. Which might account as to why I don't have as many followers as my peers do. But I'm trying my best, and be patient with me because I make really awkward posts sometimes and ridiculous jokes. But, it'll be fun. I'll make it worth your while. I'm also going to be streaming soon. So
nice.
Yeah. Just I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But like my girlfriend and I have been wanting to stream together. And it's we are Alanic Games, so it's ALAN for Alan and then NIC for Nicole. So we squished that into Alanic and then Games. That's going to be on Twitch sometime soon. We're still trying to figure stuff out, but yeah, we're hoping to stream soon. And she's going to be playing. She wants to do Jackbox games with friends. I want to play whatever I want to play. Probably a lot of retro games because I grew up with a lot of retro games, and I enjoy playing them. So that's what I might be doing. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got in terms of social media.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll try and be there whenever you do your Twitch streams. That'd be a lot of fun.
Appreciate it. We're looking for a moderator. No, I'm joking.
Maybe. We'll
see. Yeah, we'll talk after this. We'll cut the tape.
All right. Well, thank you for your time for this interview, sir. We appreciate getting all these questions touched upon.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I don't know. I hope whoever's listening to us finds it compelling. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun to chat with you, man.
Yeah, same here. I enjoyed it. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in for this episode of the Ohio Guys. Thank you all, and we'll be see you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.